it's a video file posted to the S drive if you want to watch it. Very good information about kind of what goes into starting your own business. He used CrossFit as an example, but it really carries over to most anything you're interested in starting a business for, and who to talk to, and who to hire, and just some of the hidden things that go in there. Today we have Pugleise in here. Some of you may have had him in class. If you haven't, he's in the business department. He's actually come over and talked to this class for the last 3 years now. And when I first asked him about this, I asked him about teamwork and team building in a business setting. And I think he kind of laughed at me, and he has that right to laugh at me because of the fact that he's got far more experience in the corporate world than I do. And he said really teamwork revolves around our ability to communicate well and manage communications with other people. And so he kind of took that idea and ran with it and made this very much his own. And certainly has a lot of interesting information with it. His background actually is he worked for Toyota for 35 years, 22 of them in corporate, and at one point he told me the idea was that he would work and make his money, and then he really wanted to teach. And so he's actually teaching in Bridgewater now for, I don't know, 5 years now, 6 years, 5 years now, and is doing what he'd always intended to do. So I'm going to turn it over to him. If you have questions, you're welcome to ask them throughout. We are getting this on video too, so if you want to go back to it at some point, you can. Okay? Okay.
Any questions? Is it okay if we finish early?
Yes.
Is it okay if we run over?
I like that statistic you gave last time. How much are they paying per hour? Was that real, or that was a little scary?
I figured it out. If you took the total cost of going to school here and you broke it down to credit hours, and you applied everything to the hours you're actually in a classroom, you're somewhere between $80 and $100 for the time we're going to sit here together.
So they certainly wouldn't want to get out early if they're paying $80 to $100, would they?
I pay for things I left early from. So we're talking about communication and teamwork. And yeah, my background was corporate for a long time, but also on the retail side of the car business, but mostly car business, which is like any other business, relationship business, which is communication business, which is, you know what's funny, I've been in this room before and I did a presentation one time. Look at this, gotta turn it on for me. I did a presentation one time that revolved around razors. And I had my razor, I had no blades for. My wife was out of town and I looked in the drawer and I found this brand new razor. It's pink. And I opened it up and it looks like the same thing as what I've been shaving with. And it has a little button on it, and I pushed it and it vibrates. So I have this pink vibrating razor, I think it's called a Venus or something like that, that I used, and it was, so I've used that a lot to talk about products and different products, and you know, the intention of one product. Like when we first started selling sign-ons, they were supposed to be for really young hip people, and we found out that people like my age were driving them, and we were baffled. You know, how did we miss the market? Who cares? Somebody's buying them. So. All right, so now that I did 12 slides ahead while I was trying to do my other thing. Communication, teamwork, communication leadership is what I think you need to hear. So communication is important because there's a lot of reasons communication is important. Because you have to transfer and understand meaning. So what is it that we actually intend to do? How can I say it in such a way that it makes the same sense to you, that we leave with the same meaning, ideally? Interpersonal, what if we're just having a little private conversation? Do you think there's actually private conversations anymore? I think there's like private email, voicemail. Yeah, so what you're having a little private conversation, or you're doing organizational communication. I spent most of my career doing organizational communication as if I was doing interpersonal communication. And sometimes that might get me in trouble, but it also I think people understood it was more genuine. And so I might say something inappropriate, but you know what, it's the truth and we're all thinking it, so let's get it out on the table. Single biggest problem with communication is the illusion it took place. So there's a lot of things that have to happen for communication to really take place, and if it doesn't arrive in your head the same way I thought I was shipping it, then it didn't take place. How many people checked my BC this morning? Is it possible that something really important happened on my BC this morning? And that sometime in the future somebody will say, well, you didn't check my BC? Okay, so if I'm sitting in my office and I think, oh, it's on my BC, everybody on the planet knows. Does anybody really know? Did any communication really happen? So you have to consider what channel are you using, how important is this really? Is it something I'm happy to stick on a wall somewhere and see if anybody looks at it? Loosen up your, anybody tell me what's on that poster? Anybody know that in detail? It's probably been there for how long? How many times you've been in this room?
A week.
And so what do you think's on it? What am I loosening up? Which muscles in particular? I could be loosening up my glutes for all you. That's probably a bad So deltoids, I always like the Altoids. In California, they had billboards that said nice Altoids. All right, so 4 functions of communication: control. What are the policies and procedures? What are the rules? Do you know what's appropriate as far as a dress code at Bridgewater College? Apparently not. I know I don't. I wear jeans. Well, you're wearing jeans. I feel better here. If you're an actual college employee, there's a printed dress code that you're supposed to follow. So what are the formal and informal communications? What are motivation? What motivates you? What can I do in the way of communication that would motivate you?
Offer a reward.
Offer a reward. Oh, look at the time. I guess we should leave now. Would that be a good reward? So offer a reward. Do you know that some people, if you were to bring them up in front of the classroom and offer them a reward, would be absolutely mortified, would be crushed, don't want to be. So you have to know how to work that in your organization and in your individuals. You can use it for emotional expression. It's okay to be emotional. I mean, there's some things that you just get emotional about. It's not okay to be wildly out of control and throwing yourself on the floor and having a tantrum, but it's okay to say, you know, I need some time to process this. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it yet. So communication's good. And information. What kind of decisions? What do I need to do my work? Basically do my work. Hey, go move that forklift over there. Well, I've never driven a forklift before. Just go, you'll figure it out. Anybody ever use a floor polisher? The big round floor polishers? Anyone? No one. They look really simple. And the first time you try and drive one, it will take you everywhere. And there's a movement. There's like this really gentle, rocky movement, and then you can actually control it. But the more you try and muscle it, the more it just drags you places. Anybody have a problem the first time they rode a motorcycle? Yeah? Yeah, most people do. It's not all totally intuitive. So communication can help for that as well. So message. Need to send a message, need to encode it, need to send it across a channel, decode it, and then there's all this noise that's happening. So it looks like this. I'm the sender and I'm encoding. So in my 60-year-old body, my 19-year-old brain is saying, well, I know how to talk to these people. So this is what I'm going to say and this is how I'm going to present it. And so I'll throw my message out there. And then it's traveling through a channel. Now some people are more visual and they're going to focus on this. Some people are more audio. Did you say audio file earlier? No, you said video file. Video file. And that made me think of something bad. Anyhow, I'm sending it through a medium And so the medium happens to be, it's on the board and it's coming out of my mouth. And then you're receiving it. But when you receive it, you have to decode it. So now you have to think about what I'm saying. Actually, you have to decide if you even want to receive it. You may just have other stuff going on. And ideally then, I sent that message and it came here and it meant the same thing to you. In the meantime, there's all this noise. So noise can be somebody mowing the grass, noise can be somebody on their computer in the room, noise can be, you know, a whole variety, anything that can interfere with any of this. And then unless I get feedback, so unless you actually say, here's what I heard, I never know for sure if you got the message. In a Bridgewater classroom, my experience is you ask for feedback and nobody raises their hand and nobody asks questions and nobody, so I don't always get feedback, so I'm just assuming I'm doing a really brilliant job of this. Communication methods. So how important is it? How complex is it? Some things should only be done face-to-face. You need feedback. You need to communicate something that's emotional, possibly. Other things you can put on a bulletin board. Hey, loosen up your overcoat when the wind blows free. Take good care. That was a, remember that commercial? Okay, really old. Some stuff you can put in the mail. If it's not confidential, you can put it on billboards. You can do, so there's different choices of channels. But how about things like encoding and decoding? Some things are going to work better as far as doing those two things, giving you the tools to decode the same way I'm encoding. How about personal warmth? How about scannability? Anybody ever send an email that couldn't be forwarded? You know, you can check a box on there that your stuff can't be forwarded or copied. Did you ever receive one that can't be forwarded or copied? You know how you know? When you try and forward or copy it, it tells you it can't be forwarded or copied. So instead you just screen print it, which still works. So you consider all this stuff. Radio Shack fired 400 people by email. You got in the office this morning, you checked all your Facebook, and you checked all your other social stuff, and then you got a note that says, the workforce reduction notification is currently in progress. Unfortunately, your position is one that has been eliminated. So what do you think your first response is to this? Wow, what a great communication channel. I really got that message. I'm now highly motivated to break something. So this was awarded Dumbest Human Resource Moment in, I think it was 2007. So consider the channels. I mean, there's just some stuff. Typically, if you want to fire a person, you do it face-to-face. Sometimes you do it with security in the room. But you do it face-to-face. If you want to fire 400 people, it's a little more challenging, but you still don't do it by email. Nonverbal communication. No words at all. Nothing. Totally silent. I am so interested in this class today. Really. Oops. Anybody else get an email from GoDaddy today? So in nonverbal communication, looking for a Snapchat. It's amazing those things just disappear. Most people think you can't save them. So nonverbal communication. So if I'm doing or saying or using a different intonation of voice, or I'm not engaged with you, do you notice that? How's it feel? Crushed? Disrespectful. It's, you know, it's like using your phone in a classroom. You know how much that hurts your professor? Crushed. All right, so all these things matter. How much do they matter? What percentage? What percentage do we take away in this kind of a setting or in interpersonal communication? What percentage do we weigh on nonverbal communication? 10%? 20%? How many? 100%? 100%? I don't have to say a thing? 100%? Less than 100%? How much? Yeah, 50%. Think as much as 50%? Think more than 50%? This could go all day. I'm in a Bridgewater classroom, nobody's actually going to respond. Research says between 60 and 70% of all meaning is transmitted through nonverbal. So it really does matter. People can tell. Can people tell if you're not happy? Yeah? They can if I'm not happy. Filtering. Deliberate manipulation of information to make it appear more favorable to the receiver. Anybody in the process of writing their resume?
Yes.
How's it sound?
Good.
Managed inventory and financial obligations of the shift while providing excellent customer service and guidance to our associate team. That's McDonald's. So there's filtering. So sometimes we just want to, and some of us filter ourselves. I know I do to some degree. I think I'm 19 years old and I think I'm really good looking. And I'm in shape. Yeah. Then we have information overload. When you're just crushed with stuff. I have 3 exams in one day. What am I going to do? I don't know. Look at your syllabus 2 months ago and see that it's coming. Information overload. Who knows Stan Galloway? Stan Galloway? Anyone know Stan Galloway? Ever been in his office? It looks exactly like that. Information overload? No. Filter failure. You really don't need all this stuff. Sometimes you can cut stuff out. I cleaned my garage yesterday. I removed a lot of filter failure. Stuff that we really, really did not ever need to have. How about specialized terminology? Teachers in secret rooms talk about their epistemology and their pedagogy. How that relates to the pursuit of congruent co-ontological exchanges in a conceptually shared domain. How's that? Really? Very simple. But it is jargon. I sat in a meeting where we developed systematic holistic optimization of the supply chain. And it was robust and scalable. So we would actually print these things out and we would go to meetings and we'd sit there and go, just to entertain ourselves and people talk like this. So that whole thing, the whole thing I said before about the pedagogy, and all that had to do with, does a teacher's predisposition and their activities in the classroom affect communication with students? That's all those words meant. So sometimes in organizations, people get carried away because there is a lot of corporate speak. Sometimes, bless you, in the organization I came from, there was a lot of Japanese in our language in the organization. There were certain concepts that were more understandable, more crisply understandable by the Japanese language. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Why is it easier to eat with chopsticks sometimes? But you have to remember when you're talking to somebody else, they don't care about your Genshi Genbutsu or your Kaizen or your Poke-yoke or any of that other stuff. So you have to talk to them in terms of what it really means. So I call it supermarket language. So instead of talking epistemology and pedagogy, we would, if we ran into our neighbor in the supermarket, how would we have that same conversation? It's possible to do it. So avoid some of that stuff. Active listening. So active listening means we have to put our epistemology aside. We have to put aside our attitudes, our beliefs, our prejudices, our any thinking. And if I want to actively listen to you, I have to be fully engaged with you. And the same, if you want that from me. Both parties, this is that conceptually shared domain, both parties are exposed to some degree. You're kind of letting your guard down, and you're being genuine. You're not interrupting, you're paraphrasing, so you're helping the other person out. This is a difficult conversation. I just had a difficult conversation with my sister about a health issue that her husband has just been diagnosed with. So I'm trying to give her something back. You know, I understand, whatever, showing empathy. Couldn't make eye contact with her on the phone. I did nod my head, and she didn't know that. I'm nodding my head. So nod your head, but help the other person out. And it's okay to look quizzical as well. Just be genuine in the exchange. Formal communication is our work stuff, so that's our formal channels, our BCs, or my BCs. Informal communication is how you actually get stuff done. You'll find in an organization that you make relationships cross-organizationally, where somebody who is not the boss, where somebody who is not the person who controls the formal channel is the connection you need to make something happen. So hopefully I'm providing some value by coming here, but I didn't arrive here through a formal channel. It was a completely informal, what do you think of this? Would you be interested in doing it? In an internet world, legal and security issues. I know a guy who worked for a top 5 accounting firm. He opened up an email. The email, which he did not send and he never forwarded, had a very inappropriate picture in it that filled his screen while a female associate was passing by, who found it terribly offensive, and he ended up unemployed. Email, if you send an email, if you put something in writing, if you leave a voicemail, consider how you would feel if you showed up in court with that information taken out of context. Toyota went through an issue a few years back with a bunch of recalls. A vice president who was in charge of communications at the time had written an email that said, we need to come clean. It was presented in the public as Toyota has been hiding this for years. The reality was he was saying, we don't have anything to hide. We need to show everything we have so people can understand what we understand. But taken out of context, you could show up in court with any email. So there is no, the other piece is being connected. So I have somebody today that I've already exchanged probably 5 messages with about something we're going to do later today. We've had no human contact at all. Being connected is not the same as human contact. My conversation with my sister could not have happened by email or by text message. Teamwork. Better yet, leadership. How many people want to be a teamer as opposed to a leader? Would you like to lead the team? Would you like to have some influence, some input? There's actually a way we can find out. So pass these guys around. Here, I'll start half of them. And just take 30 seconds. Or 2 minutes and fill that out. The longer it takes you to fill it out, the longer we're going to be here today.
Share.
Don't cheat. Imagine showing up at Honor Council with one of these. Did you look at their paper? Yes, I did. Thanks. Do we have a gift of inestimable value for the first one finished? Let me see what's in my bag. Cigar smokers in here? No? No, that's pretty much it, cigars. This class is faster than the other one, I think.
Yeah, pretty good.
What do you think causes that?
I've seen some of these people read about moving the lips.
Oh my God. Yeah, we're on video. Could I hate to have to explain it multiple times? Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Close? Close enough? Couple more slides before it comes up anyhow. Okay, so we think we might want to be a leader someday. So what are we going to lead? If we're a coach, we lead a team. If we're a manager or leader in an organization, we lead a team. Yeah, still a team. Might call it something else, an organizational division. So we have to define team. Anybody ever watch 6-year-olds play soccer? Okay. What happens when you drop a ball on the field? Like that? That's the ball. Okay. So is this teamwork? You think? Well, I don't know. Let's watch. Pretty cohesive, it seems. Must be a plan to it, do you think? Okay, how about this? 2 runners on base, somebody hits a fly ball right here. How many people move? Everybody? Everybody? The ball's right here. I mean, come on. How many people need to go get that ball?
You didn't say how many people go get the ball, you said it moves.
Okay, everybody moves. Seems simple. It's a pop fly between first and home. It's a foul ball, probably a catchable foul ball. There's 2 people that are actually thinking about catching the ball. Everybody else is thinking about covering anything else that may happen. But the point is, that's a team. That's not, there aren't 9 people clustered around the ball. You can pick up that ball and turn and throw it somewhere, and you know somebody's going to be there because they're your teammate and they're playing their position. Everybody knew when the ball was hit where everybody was going to go and where everybody else was going to be. So that's what you're looking for in an organization. But what do you do to help people get there? Well, obviously communication. There's a lot of communication. There's a lot of learning that leads up to this. You didn't start this in Little League. Team leadership. So you have to have patience. You have to share information. There's very few pieces of information that are really secret in an organization. There are some personnel things. But even like financial information, there's no reason not to share it. It helps your people understand what's going on. Trust others, give up authority, and there's only certain times when to intervene. Know when they are. When somebody asks, get involved. When somebody's gone beyond the point, get involved and try and help them out. Team leader's job, managing the external boundaries. So what's the environment like? What's the place to get to is where you do nothing but remove obstacles and provide resources. So your people have what they need and they don't have you, like you aren't standing on that baseball field, and when the ball's hit, you don't have a coach running out and say, you do this, you do this, you do this. Everybody knows what to do, and you get out of their way. So understand the team process. How do I handle disciplinary problems? How do I make sure people are motivated? The leader, by definition, has managerial authority. Is that the best way to influence people? We're going to talk shortly about different types of power that you have. So you have power and authority in your office, but that's not necessarily the power you want to use. But you want to be able to influence a group to achieve goals. Management is doing things right, leadership is doing the right things. So in some cases, management will say, well, here's the rules, here's the way it works. You can be a great manager, you can be a great caretaker. A leader is going to say, the situation's not normal. So a leader is the person who took a forklift and drove it through a cinder block wall of a Walmart in New Orleans when they were hit by a hurricane. And people needed stuff immediately. Do you think Walmart would have said, oh, it's okay to drive a forklift through a wall, whatever you want to? But under certain circumstances, people do remarkable things and empower others to do that. So you just did this. All right, 56 to 70. How many? 56 to 70. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. $28 to 55. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, less than 27. Anyone? Okay. So, we have 6 people who are absolutely strongly motivated to lead. We have 28 to 55. 28 to 55, we have 10. 10 people who are uncertain. Anybody want to talk about what makes them uncertain? Any particular questions that you kind of, you're just not really sure about that? Yes?
I feel like I have confidence in if I were to be asked my opinion or what to do, but I'm not interested in putting myself out there in that way. I'd rather be asked for my help than jump in and help, if that makes sense.
You afraid people might not like you?
Yeah, kind of well, I didn't ask for your opinion or whatever they would say, or I can do it myself.
Any Chuck Norris fans here? Okay. I don't remember the name of the movie, but Chuck's looking for someone, and he comes into this rough bar, and he's heading for the back room. And a guy gets in front of him and says, "You're not allowed to go back there." He says, "When I want your opinion, I'll beat it out of you." Yeah, so sometimes people don't want your opinion. You might be uncomfortable giving it. I imagine that guy became suddenly uncomfortable in giving his opinion. But nobody here had a low motivation, so you've got some in between, depending on where you were on this scale. And those with a strong motivation, so there's things like, being an idea generator, resolving interpersonal conflict. Anybody like doing that? I actually like messy personnel stuff, just because it's usually part of a miscommunication. It's usually some. I'll give you an example. In recent history, I heard a story about that at this one college, they were going to give all the available rooms to somebody from Sweetbriar. And there was a lot of anxiety, and people were very upset about something that never ever happened and was never happening at the time. But a rumor gets started and people get upset, and if you can get in there and give people real information, a lot of times you can fix stuff, and then people, obviously you feel better when you get the right story. All right, so some idea of where you may stand. leadership theory. There's a whole bunch of people with leadership theories. I'll show you in a second that they all come down to two things. Kurt Lewin gave us 3 styles: autocratic, democratic, laissez-faire. So autocratic is, I'm telling you what to do. Democratic is participation. Laissez-faire is, I really don't care what you do. So autocratic, like this leadership style. Highly motivational, respond well to this. What do you feel like when somebody does this to you? Like crap. Okay. Now, democratic, which is best? You know, you want to share your opinion? This doesn't work again in Bridgewater classrooms, which is best, but which is a complete response. Or, I don't know, do whatever you think. I did have a student the other day say, I can take either this class or this class. What should I do? Make up your mind. Which one do you want to take? Here's the balancing act. I love these old pictures, and these I think are like real. Can you imagine this? Who is this nutcase? Concern for people, concern for production are the 2 things you're trying. So if you're only concerned for production, you get a great job done. You may be a wonderful manager, but you're not a leader. If you're concerned only for people, everybody has a great time until everybody starts getting fired. So you're not a leader or a manager. So you have to balance the 2, and you have to do it in understanding the environment. What's the economy like? You aren't as friendly sometimes when the economy is bad because you can't be. Some things become a little more polarized than they are when everything's doing fine. You know, what are the risks? So you're always trying to balance these things. The managerial grid shows us what these look like in concern for people, low or high, concern for production, low or high. So autocratic is the yelling person here, produce or perish, I will fire you if you don't do what I tell you to do right this now. Right this now? Right this minute. Democratic is, you know, more of a team leader, middle of the road. So we've got something going on in both concern for people and concern for production. Laissez-faire is, man, we're having a good time up here. Wonder if there's anything getting done down here. No, not. So how do you get here? How do you look at these different theories? It started out with, there was something called the great man theory. And it said that people of a certain height and weight with certain traits are leaders. And obviously over time that was proven not to be true, not to have any bearing at all. The one that I would suggest is the most useful is Hershey and Blanchard. This is situational leadership. So you select leadership styles. So you're an aware leader. You understand where your people are. You want your people to accept you and want them to be ready to follow you. An example I gave in the other class was a book called The Leadership Moment, and there's a story in there about Man Gulch. Man Gulch was a fire, it was a wildfire, and they dropped a team of firefighters into the middle of this fire. They got into a horrible situation where the fire turned on them. The leader of the group did something that seemed very unconventional to the rest of the group, and so they did not follow. So you're not a leader if you don't have followers. All of the team members died. The leader lived. But the leader had never established, so the point of the message is, they never established themselves as a leader. They never had the acceptance, they never had the buy-in, they never had the credibility from their people. So you have to find a way to do that, and then your people will be ready to follow you. So, 4 specific leadership styles. So we started out with this guy, Fiedler, who had 2 leadership dimensions and said management cannot adapt. So Fiedler's theory was you have to find out what the manager style is, and then you have to put them with the right group, and then you have a team. Hershey and Blanchard said, no, I think people are capable enough of assessing what the situations are. So you come up with this. if we're a team, we're all together for the very first time and I'm in charge. So you don't know what to do. I hardly know what to do. But I maybe have an idea of what our mission is, what it would look like when it's done. So I want to give you some very specific direction. I'm going to tell you, here's the plan, no time to fool around. You do this, you be ready for that, you give me some research on this, and you stand right there until I figure out what I'm going to use you for. And that's the way you start out. But then as people develop, you get into, okay, we got a plan, it's tough, doable, need your help. Basically we got to find a way to come together. We got to find our common goals. Then you get to participating. So you as the leader are now saying, okay, we need a plan. In a vacuum, I would do this, but I think you folks have developed pretty far along. So how does that strike you? Have you got a plan? Have you got some other thoughts? And you're genuinely open to them. And then you get to the point where we need a plan. You know what? We've been together for a long time. We've got some experience with this. You guys are the experts. Run with it. What do you need from me? So, but sometimes you're here and one of your people falls back here for whatever reason. Or one of your teams that was doing wonderful things confronts a new situation and ends up here. And so you have to have the ability to assess that and know what's the right management to choose. Then you have transactional. A lot of this has to do with clarifying role requirements and paying people. You have visionary leadership. Realistic, credible, attractive vision of the future. Who's a visionary leader? Explains the vision to others, expresses the vision not just verbally, extends or applies the vision to different leadership contexts. Think? Okay, visionary. This guy came up with stuff other people weren't thinking of yet. He wasn't necessarily always well liked, and he apparently was kind of a crap human being if you worked for him. But he was a visionary leader. Then you have a charismatic leader, enthusiastic, self-confident, has a vision, willing to take risks, sensitive to the environment, exhibits behaviors that are out of the ordinary. You think of a great charismatic leader. Hitler was a great charismatic leader. Hitler got some amazing things done. But charismatic does not mean that you're a great person any more than visionary does. In order to get those together, you're looking for something that we would call a transformational leader, and there's scales to measure this. Transformational leaders transcend their own self-interests for the good of the organization. They get the people, they get the production, and they get the passion. There's a transformational leader. Now, here's the power we talked about. So I have legitimate power. I'm called the boss. And I can punish you if I want to. So I also have coercive power. Or I can reward you. So I can use a carrot, I can use a stick. I'm the boss. How motivated are you when the boss says, because I'm the boss? I don't care what you think. It doesn't matter. I'm in charge. This is what we're doing. Do I sound like a parent? Then you have expert power. So this is somebody who really is, certainly Steve Jobs had a lot of expert power as well. I mean, he was on the cutting edge of stuff. Or referent power. People want to be like you. You know, the most interesting man in the world? It's never his bad. Got a lot of referent power. That's the guy you want to be. How's that go? Women want to be with him, and guys want to, or guys want to be, what do guys want to do with him? Guys want to be like him? The women's want, anyhow. Referent power. Developing trust, you got to have credibility. Are you honest? You know, here again, the followers have to believe in you. You're not a leader if you don't have followers. Dimensions of trust, integrity, competence. Do I have all of these things? Empowerment. Do I let you have these things? Do I let you, would I ever leave you in front of a customer when we did something wrong and the customer knows we did it wrong and we know we did it wrong and you're not allowed to take care of them? Would I ever do that? What kind of a leader would I be to put you in that situation? I mean, that's bad. So you empower employees, you get quicker responses. Managers can do other stuff, by the way. There's probably more pressing responses than fixing the thing we all know should be fixed anyhow. Effective leadership, cross-cultural leadership, vision, foresight, providing encouragement. There's Hofstede's Cultural Dimensions, if you run across that in any classes. This is a website that talks about dimensions that are different across cultures. The way different people are expected to act. Japanese leaders are expected to be humble. Japan is not, in the United States, we're all about us, individualism. In Japan, it's very collective. There's different styles of communication in different countries, there's different levels of language, all things that if you go into something global, and you'll probably not be able to avoid something global in your lifetime, you want to be aware of and you want to understand. Showing compassion. Show compassion while using more of an autocratic style. I'm not sure I've ever seen that modeled. But effective German leaders, high performance orientation, low compassion. I've known people who work for Porsche and Audi and VW, and they're like, it's a different place, but you get stuff done. Follower characteristics. So in some cases, you may not have a leader, but if you have a professional organization, a bunch of engineers, do you need a leader? You do, but in a different way. You still need the vision, but the day-to-day, you probably don't need it. Organizational characteristics, how rigid is it? There are places where, like that baseball team, think about the deck of an aircraft carrier when a plane is landing. Think of what has to happen. You can't even have a leader in there. Stuff happens too fast. And again, everybody has to know their position and their job. I think we made it this time. Questions? I know. Deep dive?
You got it.